Oh, I have my good friend, Shawn Farash. He's not just my good friend, he's your good friend. You guys are very familiar with Shawn Farash on the line. Hey, Shawn, what's up?
Kathy, good to be here on 1210 WPHT. I was on the morning show this morning. Now we're hanging out with the great Kathy Barnette on America's greatest radio station. So it's always fun
Shawn,
to be on 1210.
I was so rooting for you when I saw Elon Musk retweeted you or commented.
Yeah, he jumped in the replies yesterday. It's always fun when something like that happens, right? So
It is,
it's
right? I mean,
it's a
like,
good time.
for better or for worse, I believe Elon Musk played a significant role in Donald Trump winning. And for that, I am eternally grateful. And I think that's the beautiful thing about the Republican Party is that we can both walk and chew gum. I can thank you for your effort, your time, your money. But then if you do something I disagree with, I can say, I don't agree with that. I think Elon
That's
Musk
right.
and his tech bros from Silicon Valley will have to learn the art of not always being right and
hmm
allowing people to voice an opinion. But I don't think we throw the baby out with the bathwater.
No, you can't throw the baby out with the bathwater. And as you said, there are things that we can agree with and disagree with. That's the best part about this party and this side of the aisle, because on the other side, it's kind of ruled with an iron fist. It's the top dog makes their statement and everybody else falls in line. And I see so many people constantly falling into this trap on our side of the aisle, right? Going, we need to be more like the Democrats. They're always in lockstep. And I'm like,
No.
I don't think you want to be like that at all. I think, the best part about having the marketplace of ideas and having it wide open like that is that you do get opinions and viewpoints and thoughts and ideas from all ends of the earth, and you debate them, and the best ideas rise to the top and the worst ones fall by the wayside. And that's how you constantly get better versus, somebody behind a desk somewhere saying, this is what we're doing, snapping the fingers, and everybody falls in line. I mean, yeah, it's efficient, but it's not diverse, and it does not allow for any sort of evolution or anything in terms of, in terms of how you want to govern, in terms of what your philosophies are. If someone else is thinking for you, then you're barely a person at all, right? So I like it this way where we can have these conversations.
You get into a dangerous place when you run into like absolute party purity. And that was a central tone that I was seeing on the campaign trail, is that as you pointed out, that lack of diversity, like you get into some scary situations when you don't allow that. First off, stagnation is just a dangerous place to be.
And then worse off, totalitarian communism, which we were living under with the Democrat Party.
Yeah.
But now, how far do we want to extend on our side of the aisle, Shawn, this sense of diversity of thought and being vocal about that diversity of thought when it comes to what is going to happen at 12 p.m. today with the House Speaker vote? Do we want conformity? Just shut up, do what you've been instructed to do at the cost so that we can have unity? Or do we want people to still be like, hey, do your own thing, regardless of what President Trump has said for the party to do?
Well, with the speaker vote, so you're dealing with an entire body of Congress here, and we have a one-seat margin. So and I get everybody's passion, and I respect Representative Massey. I think he is obviously one of the least corrupted and most conservative and most principled members of the House of Representatives. To me, it's ironically from the same state, he's like the Rand Paul of the House, right?
Yes, he
and
is.
I always have said, I always say I respect Rand Paul a ton because he can actually come out there and say he is principled and he stands by it. And it's why a lot of people sometimes get frustrated with him because they're like, oh, well, just put your principles aside. And Rand Paul says, no, I'm not going to do that. Now, in the House, where you have to elect a speaker or else nothing can get done, and we have a one-seat margin. So while I understand 100% where Thomas Massey is coming from, I'm no fan of Johnson right now after what he did with Ukraine, promising we're going to stop sending money there and then sending it
and
anyway.
immediately
And really,
sending it.
exactly. And then with FISA, right?
Oh.
I mean, voting to allow us to get spied on after all of the abuses of that system that we've seen
Yep.
over the course of the last decade, that doesn't sit well with me. I'm not happy with that. But we have to look at this from a math perspective, and the votes just aren't there. So, in a moment of extreme accountability, I think it's time for Republican voters to express their frustration with the circumstances, but then look at ourselves in the mirror and say, well, what could I have done to give us a better and stronger and more reliable majority so that if we wanted to elect somebody like a Byron Donalds or a Thomas Massey or, somebody out of the Freedom Caucus who we think would actually bring better bills to the floor and, and be a more principled and stronger leader, what could we all have done, right? And my challenge to folks who are listening to this, who are frustrated with the circumstances and frustrated with the fact that we're probably going to get stuck with Johnson and we have a very weak majority and a very thin majority, my challenge is, okay, remember this feeling now and take that with you into the 2026 midterms. Vet new candidates, find better candidates, stronger candidates, organize around them, and elect a stronger and larger and more reliable majority, or else we're going to wind up in the same situation. Everybody loves to complain on X, but when push comes to shove, a lot of the folks who are complaining on X haven't knocked on a door, haven't made a single phone call, haven't sent a single email. And don't get me wrong, there's a ton of people on social media who have done those things, but we need more of them. We need people to be involved in the process. If we own the process, we won't find ourselves in this situation. And so in a moment of extreme accountability, I think it's time for the Republican or MAGA or MAHA, whatever you want to call it, America First movement in this country to look at ourselves in the mirror and say, ultimately, this is on us. Ultimately, we are the ones who determine who gets elected into office. We have to organize amongst ourselves and put forth and elect a better representation of what we want in our Congress. It's possible. It's not easy, but it's possible, and we have to undertake that challenge and that process.
Yeah. So when I went to bed last night, according to Politico, Johnson is lacking 12 votes. Have you heard anything
That's
different?
what I heard too.
Is that what you heard
I heard
too?
the same thing. I heard 12. And I heard that Massey is a hard no.
Yeah.
And then you'd have 12 holdouts. And
Right.
so does it play out like it did last year where these guys hold it out 20 rounds in a row? Or does it play out like it has in previous years where it goes a round or two and they get their concessions and then, things fall into line? What is it going to take for Thomas Massey? Is he a hard no forever, or is he a hard no until he gets something that he's asking for? I mean, that remains to be seen, but I heard 12 as well.
Yeah, absolutely right. And again, like you, like so many others, Johnson is not my favorite, especially coming out of December with that ridiculous continuous resolution, which was basically everything Democrats wanted. Nothing much really changed, even when they cut it down by paper size. Democrats are still getting, hence the reason why they all voted for it. And so I'm not in love with him. I really cannot stand the fact that he was the deciding vote to allow FAFSA to remain as it was, and as it continues to be, that allows them to be able to weaponize information against American citizens. So, and I'm really not a fan of the $60 billion that he has signed and Biden has been sending over to Ukraine every time we turn around. And yet I'm left with this time versus last year, because I think it was last year that you just mentioned, we went about 20 rounds, and we can play that game. But this year, we have not only on today, actually, we'll be swearing in the new members who are coming in. So that gives us, some more votes. But then we have on January 6th, we have the certification. We need a speaker in position to do that, followed by the inauguration, if they really want to play games and keep pushing this on and on and on. We just have a lot that is going on just from a technical perspective. But beyond the technical, I believe this vote is going to be a bellwether that will send a Batman light, like that light, that Batman signal to not only our party, but to Democrats as well, of things to come during the first critical days of Donald Trump's administration.
Yeah, and I think that, you bring up the points that back in 2022, after the midterms, and then the new Congress gets sworn in 2023, and it goes 20 rounds with Kevin McCarthy, and there was a little bit less at stake, right, for us because Biden was still president, right? So we can look at it and go, well, who cares if Congress isn't doesn't have its what together. The longer this goes on, the less money goes overseas, right? Because they control, they have the power of the purse. But now we have a lot more to lose, right? And on the other side of it, a lot more to gain by having a speaker. A lot of people say, well, Mike Johnson, it's the same thing as Paul Ryan. And I want to say, I don't think Mike Johnson is ineffective out of malice. I think Paul Ryan actively undermined Donald Trump. I think Mike Johnson is just, as Rand Paul described him, weak. Right? I think he's just a weak man. He's a bad leader. He's not a strong leader. But I don't necessarily think this is somebody who wants to undermine the agenda, whereas Paul Ryan was.
Right.
So you're dealing with a little bit of a different animal.
Yes,
and I think Donald Trump feels like he can manage Johnson, and he can do that better as the president versus, what he was doing a couple of years ago through social media when he wasn't the president or president-elect.
I agree. Let me get your comments on this. Shawn, can you play that video? Listen to this.
What was requested in 2021. Mayor Bowser, can you explain the additional funding needs in more detail? And is every dollar requested intended for reimbursing federal expenses related to the inauguration?
Mostly it reflects increases in inaugural costs, but also all of the costs that MPD incurs because of our special federal status and how we support the federal government. So the Metropolitan Police Department is our local DC police, and we support the Secret Service on movements of dignitaries. We support federal land in the district where there are First Amendment activities or protests or demonstrations, and we support big events like the 4th of July, of course, and the inauguration. What we've seen since 2021 that you reference, in 2021 we had about
that's
five.
She literally, Shawn, goes on and on this word salad. He is specifically asking her, and he comes back several times to ask her, how are you going to spend the $50 million you've requested and received? How are you going to spend it to secure the inauguration? And I wanted you guys just to hear, because this is really the gist of what she says. She goes on and talks about federal parks and talks about July 4th activities and First Amendment parades and things like that. And the only thing she says towards the end of this 4-minute babble is, my goal is to have 4,000 police officers. Do you think Washington, D.C. is ready for what is awaiting them in a couple of weeks?
I mean, I hope so. I really hope it's ready, but it doesn't sound like this woman is prioritizing the right things, as we've seen many, many times with folks on that side of the aisle. I mean, look no further than Wikipedia, right? Who just came out with, some budget numbers just came out from 2023 and 2024 with Wikipedia, and this will be great. I'm sure you'll love these numbers, Kathy. They spent $50 million on DEI initiatives, and then $30 million on effectiveness. So if you donate to Wikipedia, know that they're prioritizing diversity, equity, and inclusion over being accurate. This is an online encyclopedia. Imagine funding like a dictionary, which exists to define words, and rather than prioritizing the most accurate definition of words in our English language, They're prioritizing who types the words into the pages or into the books and what they look like and what backgrounds they have ethnically.
And
I
they
mean,
spent
that's what
30
we're
million
dealing with here.
and they spent 30 million on effectiveness.
That's right.
I mean,
30 million on effectiveness,
now, when I
50 million on DEI.
When I ran in 2022, being the only black person to ever run for U.S. Senate, when my star started taking off 6 weeks before the election, do you know they shut down my Wikipedia page? And then when
Of course they did.
and then, maybe about 5 days before the election, they put it back up, calling me a homophobe, calling me, I'm a xenophobe, I'm a homophobe. Wait a minute, I thought it was all about DEI with you people, right? I'm the first black person. Like I didn't get any benefits for being black. Not that I was asking for it, but if you're handing it out, surely I should have been at the first.
Yeah, I mean, you figure, you're handing it out, and you would be qualified in that case to receive it. And
I didn't get any benefits.
Well, not you.
I'll say
this.
And the reason why
I'll say this about that race.
And the reason why is because I don't think the way they want me to think.
That's right. That's right. Diversity of thought is not allowed. We just talked about that. And I'll say this about that race: you got it from all sides, and I was not happy to see that. And so. I'm still a little bitter over 22. I know, I know there's probably some leftover nasty taste in there too. But I remember that, and I was like, that's not cool what they're doing. What everybody was doing. It was pretty nasty.
Yeah, and it came from all sides, which means I must have really been over the target. And I don't think it was necessarily just me. I think it was people who think like me, people who want to be free, people who have no obligations or ties to anyone and won't be controlled. I think the fact that they saw that kind of person, I don't care, black, white, woman, male, whoever, but that image of a person is like, we can't, everybody pull out your big guns on this chick, right? I think that was more the thing. But let's get back to what I was asking about, the security, because Donald Trump wants to do a pre-party. He wants to do a rally before the inauguration. He wants the inauguration, which is a big deal, then a ball, then some more parties. And I'm just like, Mr. President, please, sir, just get in office. Because I don't think these people care. I mean, 4,000 police officers versus this, and this is the same woman who was over January 6th of 2021 when Donald Trump requested National Guard and they didn't, she didn't allow it. Shawn, can you hold on 1 second and I'll bring you back at the top of the break? Okay, great. Because I want you to think about that. This is the exact same woman who was in charge of protecting everyone on January 6th of 2021. Donald Trump requested National Guard. She did not enact it. This is the exact same woman now who said, I think 4,000 police officers should do it. We'll talk about it on the other side with Shawn Farash on the line. Talk to y'all in a minute. I want to give you the last word before we go back to break again. But you heard what I said about Bowser, the need for more than just 4,000 police officers. I think we should be calling the National Guard. She doesn't seem like we do. What are your thoughts?
Well, this is a president who just had 2 assassination attempts against him.
Yeah.
And a vehicle exploded at his hotel in Las Vegas. I think it's time to pull out all the stops and make sure that not just President Trump, but all of the Americans in attendance for the historic, goings on of Inauguration Day are kept safe. That is the government's job. It is to keep people safe. And as much as I love federal parks and protected First Amendment activities, you have an inauguration coming up right now. You know that there are a lot of people that are very emotionally driven, and that's me being nice when the name Donald Trump comes up.
Yeah.
It's time to keep people safe. Keep Americans and the attendees safe at this event. That should be priority number 1 through 10. And if you can, obviously there's no guarantees, right? But you've got to make it as airtight as possible. No excuses.
I absolutely agree. And I just don't think 4,000 police officers is going to do it.
No.
I mean, like, you're going to
No,
have
not
hundreds
gonna
of
do it.
thousands of people there. And not just on the
Right.
day of. You have President Jimmy Carter being laid to rest from January 16th through 18th. Donald Trump wants to do a pre-rally on the 19th. Then you have the inauguration. And I listed off like maybe 6 or 7 different resistance events that are going to be going on throughout that time and after the inauguration. I just know, when I hear 4,000, and she's not even, with $50 million, she said she hasn't met the entire 4,000 yet. I'm just like, this is 3 days ago. It's unbelievable. These people are unserious. Donald Trump put out a post today calling it unserious and absent leadership, and I agree.
I agree as well. And it's unbelievable that, you're given $50 million and we're even having this conversation, give me $50 million. I'll make sure that, not even a fly is hurt in Washington, D.C., okay? And they get $50 million. It's like, well, we're going to spend some here. We're going to spend some there. We don't really know what's going to happen. How is this the best? How is this who you're electing? Washington, D.C., I know it's like 97% Democrat, but like, you don't want to be safe either. I look at New York City, same deal. People getting lit on fire. How are we just okay with this? That's just what happened. No, it's not. It doesn't have to be. We have to find leaders that are a little more responsible or a lot more responsible, that are better. When you're given a $50 million budget, there better not be a leaf out of place in Washington, D.C., let alone, keeping people safe.
I agree. Shawn Farash, thank you so much, sir. Where can people find you?
Head over to X, best place. We have a lot of fun on that platform. Everybody has a lot of fun over on X at Shawn, S-H-A-W-N, then an underscore, then the last name Farash, F-A-R-A-S-H. Join the fun, and we have a great time over there.
Shawn, I appreciate you. Blessings.